Hello there, chummy.
Chums.
Chums.
Are we in the 18th century?
We are indeed, yes. Just call me Crimbo.
Yeah, or the Great War. That's probably...
The Great War.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how have you been, man?
I've been my usual self.
Your usual self?
Yeah, happy and as ever, you know.
Happy and dandy and gay?
Yeah. All those words describe me. Yeah, cheerful. That's probably what I should be.
Good bit of cheerfulness, yeah.
Yeah.
Same here, man. It's just it's been raining like hell over here, as you can see.
Yeah. Looking out the window.
So yeah. Look at it go. Some places are flooded around here. So it's the underground. Can't get the underground because that's flooded apparently.
Has it?
Yeah, apparently I don't know to what extent, because they just said undergrounds are closed because of flooding, and I was like, Jesus Christ, the holes under the city, those are flooded? Like, oh shit.
How's that work out?
I don't know, like, it's just weird.
Surely the trains can just become like boats then, though, can't they?
Well, I don't know, more like submarines, I would think.
Yeah, it would be difficult to get out, wouldn't it? The doors open, you just come up with water. Yeah, I didn't think that was always going
to be that one arsehole at the end of the carriage that has to open one of the windows because he's a little bit hot.
Yeah, just let in a whole load of water.
Oh, it's too hot in here. And it just lets it open, everything gushes in, you know. An octopus here.
Yeah.
Man.
You hear like a muffled, please mind the gap. Doors are closing.
Oh man, So I don't think I've ever seen it this bad. But to be honest, everything is going to shit these days. You got people getting shot everywhere, and then like not even actual getting shot, but in Germany apparently someone pulled out a gun. I read it this morning actually. Someone pulled out a gun in a cinema. And apparently, allegedly, they said it was a toy gun, but there's no actual factual reports. And allegedly, he hurt 50 people, and then the police said, actually, he didn't hurt anyone, which would make sense, because of the toy gun. But it's just stuff like this. But that's like a less serious case. There's crazy shootings going on all week. You know, of course, the tragedy of Orlando was the first one.
First one, yeah.
It's horrible. It just makes you think, like, what's the world coming to, man?
Yeah, it's it is kind of like scary, but
I don't want to leave the EU, man, because I don't want to be out by myself with all this shit going on.
I know it's kind of what's the world coming to?
Yeah.
And then there's Joe Cox as well, wasn't there?
Joe Cox, yeah, shot by he shouted Britain first, but at the same time, you don't know if that actually means he's part of Britain first. I wouldn't be surprised if anything. But I'm just saying, like, obviously Britain First denies any involvement with him, but...
he would do,
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I'd say, it was only one person from Britain First, if he was a member, that has shot. So it's not like the whole of Britain First, but I still don't like it.
I mean, there's a nut job in every social circle, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, Tony Blair was head of Labour for a while. Turns out he's a war criminal. Who knew? David Cameron's just a cock. Who knew? You know? Well, we all did, really.
Yeah,
But yeah, you just... that's just another example of maniacs are everywhere. So, you know.
Yeah. Some just manage to get into power.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Trump, who's almost in power.
Got Clinton,
if he continues with
could be in
Clinton,
power.
who could be in power. And then Bernie, who's declared he might team up with Clinton to stop Trump. It's kind of like some sort of Jedi battle going on, you know?
Yeah.
Let's stop the Sith. Let's join up and join forces, put our differences aside.
I see Clinton as the, the Sith one who's meant to be on the good side, but it turns out to be on the bad side.
Yeah. So like the betrayer.
Yeah. That's what I think.
She's quite bad, actually.
I don't like
some of the stuff I read. Yeah, and those things she said in those reports. Yeah, if that was actually her, that's quite terrible.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to get political here, but of course I do. But yeah, she as Secretary of State, she supported coups in Honduras.
Yeah,
you don't hear much about this, or you certainly don't in the mainstream media.
You wouldn't, would you? I'm actually surprised Donald Trump hasn't directly attacked them himself, but part of me thinks that's because he didn't want to read anything.
Yeah. I find that one really difficult. Who do you support in that case? Trump or Clinton? Trump, who will say anything. Well, but to be honest, they both say anything to get into the presidency, I think.
That's true, but at the same time, what I think to myself is, I even go to the whole cartoony situation of who's not going to press the red button that fast?
Yeah.
But then you think to yourself, who's going to ignore societies more and, just little things like that. And I don't think I can choose between them. Obviously, I want to choose Hillary purely because I want to choose a person who's actually creditable.
Yeah.
As bad as they might be. But it's a very grey morality choosing. It's not exactly black and white.
Yeah.
That's why Bernie comes off as a really nice standing guy, because he makes all these weird promises, but if he can actually follow through with them, he seems like a peaceful guy.
Yeah, also, I mean, he was on the right side of the civil rights movement. I don't think anyone can deny that.
Yeah.
He's right side on the wars in the Middle East, whereas certain Mrs. Clinton wasn't. So
I guess he's kind of like the Corbyn of America.
I found it weird, how both the sad thing about Corbyn and Bernie Sanders is just how old they are. If they were a bit younger, it'd be so perfect because they'd have more time. With Bernie Sanders,
That's true.
Yeah, he's he may well still be alive in 4-8 years time, but you don't know for sure. That's just the sad thing, isn't it? I suppose
that's true. But then again, look how long Tony Benn lasted for.
Yeah, true.
So he quit politics, but he went on to just do lots of other things. Support others. I think at the same time with Corbyn or Bernie, especially Bernie, actually, he's pushing it quite well. But it's the age that actually makes you respect them more. If they were younger, some people would brush them off as upstart ex-students or who read their first article and now they think they're Russell Brand's niece or something.
Yeah.
But because they are that age and they are that experienced, you can see it. They've been through this. They know what they're talking about. They've actually lived through some of the regrettable times.
Yeah.
That's why I think I like them. And if it means, they could just about live through their term, go ahead, do it,
Yeah.
At least set an example for the future politicians,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think obviously Bernie Sanders isn't going to be president now.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe in the future, but I do hope Corbyn stays long enough to get to the election in 2020. Although there could be elections sooner than that, possibly.
Yeah, or at least serve as a good reminder of what could have been, or a good example of to guide people.
I'll be honest. I voted for Labour in the last election. But if it continued down the same path, I'm not sure I would have done.
Oh, really?
Next time. But with Corbyn in charge, I think it's a strong possibility that I will. Even though I'm still a bit sceptical about him at the moment. I do hope that he can kind of bring about the change in the Labour Party that I want to see.
Yeah. When you said the last election, I'm actually struggling now. That wasn't... there was the Gordon Brown election. That's when Cameron got in.
The 2015 one.
2015. Yeah. Who was the Labour candidate for that?
Ed Miliband.
It was Ed Miliband. That's it. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Forgetful.
Yeah.
I voted Labour as well. But at the same time, I respect Miliband now because he's free from certain... He can say what he likes now. But at the time, he felt like he was being told to say what he can say and what he can't say. He's not exactly able to relax like some of the other politicians. He does look a bit stiff, and that became a personality war as well.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, he played into it. He played into the whole... Jeremy Corbyn doesn't do that. He doesn't respond to these things,
Yeah, I found the problem like Ed Miliband was he just didn't really know what he stood for. I didn't feel there was a clear enough
Is he a new age Labour that's more conservative, or is he because even those Yvette Cooper and that one Scouser guy, Alex something, I can't remember his name, that were trying to take Corbyn's place.
Oh yeah,
they were very conservator, kind of a hybrid between Labour and Conservative. It's very
that's because actually I was saying in the podcast we did about Trump or the Great American Debate or whatever it was called. I said to Timon, can you really tell before Corbyn, could you really tell the difference between Labour and Conservative?
Sure.
Really, at the top, the shadow cabinet and the cabinet, could you really tell the difference between them? I think that's the problem a lot of people saw with Labour and Conservative. You just couldn't tell the difference.
That's true.
At the end of the day,
it was a weird time when it was just suits. And nothing else.
It just kind of feels like the Labour Party had become a poor imitation of the Conservative Party in a way.
Yeah.
Particularly under Blair and Brown, I thought. But
yeah, it's just become oiled and kind of just not boring as well, but just there's no one that stands out for good. For they don't stand up for a better for what the people want. Really, I mean, it's all rhetoric. It's all washing away comments and stuff. Especially Boris Johnson, he's one of the worst for it.
Oh, yeah.
People try and ask him a question. Or that one Conservative politician with the glasses and the bald head, thinning head, Jeremy Paxman tore him a new one, if you remember.
Oh,
he kept asking him the same question, and he kept,
Oh, Michael Howard, was it?
Michael Howard, yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was a joy to watch just because he was the epitome of what you thought of with old Tory bencher,
Yeah. Oh, but the rumours that he was a vampire. He was slightly racist, actually. It's all to do with his heritage and stuff like that.
Didn't Michael Bell draw him with fangs?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
And Widdicombe, that lovely Conservative.
Oh God, yeah, she's a Brexit, isn't she?
Yeah, she said Michael had something of the night about him and stuff like that.
Oh,
it was a bit of a smear campaign against him.
It really was, yeah. Because even when they realised he wasn't going to win, it was like piranhas. All the Tories turned on him as well. So there you go.
I'm going to say I did actually vote Leave today, but not for the reasons that Farage point. So I just want to say that.
Well, at least you're not buying into the whole personality thing.
Yeah.
Everyone has their reasons, and I would say that I'm actually going to be voting to stay.
Yeah.
Because I have my reasons for it as well, but not personal ones. Not like, because so and so voted for it, or because I love the Irish or something like that. It's other things, and no, we don't have
Yeah,
it's brave of you to say who,
Yeah, I think it's come so toxic, and it's all become about people insulting each other. And I think the whole point of politics is you have people who disagree, and you get a compromise at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
you should see my Facebook wall, mate. It's absolutely nothing. There was one person who posted something other than the Brexit campaign, and I thanked him.
Yeah.
I actually posted, "Thank you so much."
Yeah. The only thing I did today, Facebook was asking me whether I voted or not, and I just said I voted. I didn't put who for, because I do find that a bit annoying on Facebook when people say, "Oh, I voted for that one, so should you." I just think no, let people make their own mind up. We're not voting because you told us to. Yeah. So I just think it's vote for what you believe in. Ultimately, you believe in staying, I believe in leaving. It's as simple as that, really. I don't know why we have to constantly convince each other.
Well, that's the thing. I hate the fact that people are trying to constantly push their opinion. Yeah. But at the same time, I guess that's what democracy is. It's free speech. You tell your point, but don't let it divulge into bad mouthing or shouting at people or something. There's one person I know who posted a point about. I think this woman had said to him, "It's you guys who are the reason for you Brexit people who are the reason Joe Cox is dead." Yeah. And at first, he was flabbergasted. That's why he posted the picture. But it's Jesus Christ, that's such a crazy statement, and ignorant one as well.
Yeah, I did feel that was that's the danger of kind of what happened. But I feel it's okay. When you're having a debate, I think it's I can understand you trying to convince someone else to support the other side. But it's when people just randomly, if someone just says, "Oh, I'm voting Brexit," and someone's telling them, trying to convince them otherwise. I mean, I don't know. It sometimes feels like you're just I don't know. I sometimes feel it's better you just keep your opinions to yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Just if someone asks you for your opinion, that's what I've done. If someone's asked my opinion, I'll say that's what I think. But unless someone's asked my opinion, I just don't say anything at the end of the day. Yeah,
leave them to it, because you don't want to have a hoo-ha. But that's the British way, isn't it? Everyone loves to get angry at something. That's why Jeremy Kyle exists.
Yeah.
Speaking of opinions, where's Tommy?
I think she's at a children's party.
Really?
Yeah, we know what she's like. Loves children. Balloons.
Oh, yes, of course.
Everything, she's entertaining them. You know, she's so good with children.
She is really like. Oh, it warms my heart when I see her at the nursery.
Yeah. I mean, the only sad thing was that she was trying to get them to agree to plastic surgery because that's her job apparently.
But at the same time, you know, it's an innocent practice if you look at it from her point of view.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's good business. You're trying to get customers early, you know.
Welcome to the Dorks Deduction Podcast, where we talk about stuff.
You know,
While they're impressionable,
it's questionable, but
it's never too late to warp their minds.
Yeah, but I can understand why she'd do it. Well, I think that was a good segue there, Chris, for what we're going to talk about today. And,
pray do tell.
We're going to be talking about the Sodder children. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yes. That is it. Well, I that's the English way of pronouncing it, I suppose.
Because they're an Italian-American family, or American-Italian, however you say it. So I don't know whether there's some Italian kind of phrasing to that. I meant to Sodder, or something that sounds more French.
Sodder. Yeah.
So we just call them Sodder, even though it does sound a bit weird saying that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's the right one, actually, because even thinking now, there's not really many different ways you could say it.
Yeah. It just reminds me of sod, and that's all.
Sod off.
Yeah. Oh, I did. No, actually, I won't say it. It's about the two Bonnies. But
oh, do tell.
It's that thing that they had a song, and part of the line was "sewed off your caps."
Oh yeah,
so I remember that. But they put "sewed off," so it just looks like "sod off." Like for a few lines. Like
we should have played that as a song.
Oh yeah, we should have. We'll have to get Tarmim to edit that in if she's editing this.
Why not? You can edit that together, Tarmim.
She's probably going to edit that whole story about her being at a children's party, isn't she?
Maybe.
We just got to keep mentioning it as much as we can.
Yeah, is she still at the children's party right now? Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's still at that children's party.
We'll just do that every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes. Nice.
Yeah. Right, so I shall begin now. Right, it's Christmas Eve of 1945, and the Sodder family are living in Fayetteville. Does that sound right to you? Fayetteville? It's in West Virginia, that's all you need to know. And you can write and complain if you...
Oh, yeah, Fayetteville.
Yeah.
It looks a bit French, actually.
Probably is. Husband and wife, George and Jenny Sodder, are celebrating Christmas with their 10 children. Although one of the sons, Joe Sodder, is away with the army. As the night goes on, George retires for bed for the night, followed shortly by two of his sons, John, who's 23, and George Jr., who's 16. Jenny then decides it's time for the rest of the children to go to bed. They make a case for staying up and playing with their toys that their older sister, Maria, who's 17, had brought them. The children promised that they would do some chores before bed, and they got their way. Jenny did take their youngest child, Sylvia, who was 3 at the time, up with her when she went to bed. Oh. So we kind of know where they kind of all are at the moment.
Yeah.
A little past midnight, Jenny is awoken by the phone ringing. Jenny answers, but the woman on the other end asks to speak to someone Jenny does not know. The woman laughs and hangs up when Jenny tells her that she has the wrong number. Jenny assumes that this is probably just some prank call, but she then notices that the lights are still on in the house and the doors are unlocked. And Jenny kind of feels this is a bit unusual, as the children are usually kind of very good at, attending to these things, so they usually turn the lights off and lock the doors.
Just before you go any further, whereabouts is Jenny in this situation?
She's gone up to bed, I think, at this point. I'm guessing it's upstairs. There's any problem, we don't know what their house is like. I'm guessing they've gone up to bed. But it could be like one of those houses where they all live on, the ground floor.
Yeah.
So, I don't, I think they had a first floor and I think they had a second floor. Okay. But I assume she went up to bed on the second floor.
We'll assume they have a normal house anyway.
Yeah, I'll go with that assumption first. I mean, it could just be a thing, it's Christmas. They're probably maybe a bit excited. They maybe didn't, forgot to turn the lights off this time and lock the doors.
Yeah.
They could have even still been playing, possibly.
That's true. Well, you don't know what kids are like. I think it's on the 24th, is it?
Yeah, it's Christmas Eve. So she turns off the lights and locks the doors and then goes back to sleep. Having barely just got back to sleep, she hears a thump on the roof, followed by the sound of something rolling. And it's soon after this she realises that the house is on fire. And this is around about 1:30 a.m. In the morning. And this kind of slightly important later on. She screams for her husband and children to get out. The oldest boys, John and George Jr., made it out of the house, as well as the oldest girl, Marion, who ran out with baby Sylvia. Jenny and George both make it out. However, while they'd been kind of lucky, they realised that 5 of the other children haven't got out yet. So George then tries everything possible to get back in the house and save them. He even tried to break a window, and in the process managed to cut his arm.
Jeez.
And although it was very difficult to see through the smoke, he could see that the flames had covered in the entire first floor. So I'm assuming, there was a second floor, I'm guessing, because otherwise everyone would be pretty much dead already, I think. And then kind of there's some moments of real bad luck begin to follow. He runs to a rain barrel where they used to keep water, and what he's hoping to do is get buckets of water to throw on the house. I mean, it's probably in vain a little bit, because the fire sounds like it's already quite powerful, and what a few buckets of water would do, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Especially the whole of the... Was it the second floor?
Yeah, first floor.
The first floor was engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
It's going to be like pissing in the wind.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's better than nothing, but he discovers that... this is winter time, and winters in America can be quite severe sometimes, and the water had just completely frozen over. So it was completely useless. So they couldn't use that. He then encounters further bad luck when he goes to try and find his ladder.
Yeah.
He finds that this has disappeared from where he's always kept it. So it's a place where, it's always been. And it's just gone. And there's no sign of it. He did then try and just climb up the house by hand, which is, it's obviously not the best way of trying to get up a house. That obviously wasn't working. He and his sons then tried to get their trucks. So they were thinking of trying to get the trucks up by the side of a house, maybe try and climb up to the second floor that way.
It just keeps getting worse for them.
Well, it gets even worse. Because of the cold weather, they couldn't get the trucks to start, or that's what we assume at the moment.
Oh, my goodness.
That's all they've tried to do, to try and stop the fire at the moment. But there is more bad luck to come, because the oldest daughter, Marion, she runs to a neighbour's house to call the fire department. Now, at first, they couldn't even get through to the operator to reach a call. And when they finally did manage to get through to the operator, they had to phone each of the town's firemen individually.
Oh, my God.
So you can imagine how difficult that is. It's not ideal. And, I mean, it's kind of like middle of the night, but you still think fire people would be prepared for that. Well, it would be nowadays.
Just to see how many different people it takes to do something simple like pilot a fire engine.
Yeah. It's amazing. And they were eventually dispatched to the scene. Now, this is where this is amazing. The fire station was less than 3 miles from the Sodder house, but the firemen didn't get there until 8 a.m. When you consider that the fire was about 1:30, they discovered it, the family. That's nearly 7 hours. That's 6.5 hours.
That's too late at that point.
And at this point, the house had just burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
Well, they said it pretty much just burnt to the ground within 45 minutes of the fire starting.
I mean, it's West Virginia, so it must have been a detached house, would you say?
I did actually see a photo of it somewhere on the internet, and it's kind of like it's a coal farm they lived on. So if you imagine like a little kind of farmhouse.
Yeah, because it's quite a big family.
Yeah, there's 10 children. 11 if you count the one that's in the army. So it's quite a big house. It's like I saw a photo and it's literally just your typical kind of farmhouse.
Yeah.
If you put in Sodder family home, I think it comes up. Or I looked up one of the surviving children. It had like a picture of the house there. I'm going to just trying to get a kind of look at it. It's very small though. It looks actually like it might just be one floor.
Just one floor.
Yeah, if that's what I'm looking at right now is their actual house. It's hard to tell. It's a bit on the small side, so it's not very tall, if you get what I mean. It's quite big in the sense of overall size, but it's not very tall. So, yeah. The next morning, the police arrived on the scene, and literally they investigated for just 2 hours, and they concluded that the fire was started by faulty wiring.
Shit.
George didn't believe this because he'd recently had the wiring redone and he'd had it inspected as well, which I assume you probably have to maybe do on a farm.
Well, it's kind of... Well, you hear about people ignoring that stuff once they get into it, but usually, you check it. You usually have someone check it for you anyway. I mean, someone comes around. Then again, it's a farmhouse, right? Yeah. So it's probably not under the same regularities that you would get in a city block or something.
Yeah, true.
But at the same time, like, you would check it if you're that independent.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could kind of... it could have been like a cowboy kind of electrician, I guess, or whatever they call them. Oof. So he wasn't convinced by this, and he pointed out that lights had stayed on for a time after the fire. So the idea that it was kind of a wiring problem, that's what he believes. Yeah, and at the time, reports suggested that there was no remains whatsoever found in the ash and rubble. But despite this, it was ruled by the coroner's jury that the missing Sodder children died in the fire.
And yet, this wasn't based on anything scientific as evidence.
Not really. There was no like evidence of bodies there. So
I just you think to yourself, surely if there's no evidence of bodies, then they can't make an assumption, can they? I mean, do they? Or was it possible it could have disintegrated that much?
Yeah, that's what I was going to come on to, because I just think, I don't know whether it's maybe the time. It happened like 1945. You'd like to think things had probably developed a bit further by then, but I still think it was relatively... I think you got to remember, because I'm not entirely sure where West Virginia is in America, but it's, while some parts of America are incredibly modern, some... kind of still got, I think, left a bit behind the times a bit.
But still, the phone call and the fact that the windows and doors are unlocked. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming the front and back door as well. Like, it's a bit too coincidental for it to be happening on the same night everything burnt down. Yeah.
Well,
that's just freaky.
What you said about the bodies though not being found, I think a lot these days, I don't think they'd leave it an open case. There's no bodies. But someone did point out, I think, that back then they might have not known what to look for, because the bodies would have been very kind of badly burnt. So they might not have necessarily known what to look for at the time.
It might have even been a case of just not knowing whether bodies do break down that much after an intense fire like that, or 7 hours, no less.
It's like it was a very intense fire. That was obvious. I mean, it very quickly got through the first floor. So
and bones can be destroyed and disintegrated in some cases. I'm not sure what would happen to bone, to be honest, if you just left it in an intense flame for hours on end. I mean, maybe it does break down somehow, or ash. Or
I was thinking, like, in cremations and stuff like that. It does burn, but that's very kind of...
focused.
That's very, but it's very intense heat, isn't it? Yeah. It's like probably the intensest you could probably get. But kind of what gave them hope was that... not long after, another house burnt down, and but in that house, all 7 skeletons were found.
Oh shit! Serious?
Yeah, and I don't know the differences of intensity of the 2 fires,
or how long they went on for.
Yeah, but
the fact that it happened, though, I mean, that's very suspect.
Yeah, there's kind of a bit of debate between people. Like, so I know a lot of people who say, like I was reading on this, who say you'd still expect to find something. It's the fact that nothing was found. Like, remains were found later on, but it turned out to be from a cow or something like that.
Ugh, bloody hell.
There's a theory that was like planted there because there's going to be a theory who might be behind this coming up soon. Right. George and Jenny definitely believe that the children had been kidnapped. That's what they believe happened, and that the fire was kind of just a cover for the crime scene, basically. It was just to kind of get them, George and Jenny's attention away from their children. And there's like a few kind of witnesses and rumours that suggest that this may have been the case. Because, I think we were talking about, what happened to, like, the ladder and stuff like that. Well, a strange man was witnessed stealing from the Sodder's garage while the fire was burning as well. So this is kind of interesting. And the article I was reading said he was actually arrested, and that he says that he stole the ladder and attempted to cut their power line, but instead he cut the phone line. I don't know whether he confessed to this or he was actually caught in the act of stealing this stuff.
Why would he say that anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, shit.
But yeah, the ladder was found away from the house down an embankment. But for some reason, he was never actually looked upon as a murder suspect by the police. He was literally just ordered to pay for some fines for stealing. But you think he's at the scene at the time the fire's going on.
Yeah.
There's a strong possibility that he could have been there when it started. You think if this is a serious investigation...
I mean, of all the things to start that one night, coincidentally, a guy trying to... cut the power line? No, I would say the phone line?
Well, he was actually trying to cut the power line, but he got the phone line instead.
Just so he could steal stuff, right?
That's what they must have come to the conclusion, I guess. But there's another theory why they might have gone easy on him coming up, I think.
Uh-huh.
But, cutting the phone line does make sense if it's a kind of conspiracy, because he's trying to cut their lines of communication. If you think it's all just trying to make it more and more difficult for them to get help, I think. Another witness was a bus driver who saw fireballs being thrown onto the house before the fire started. This was actually backed up by the fact that the following spring, their youngest daughter, Sylvia, found a green shell in the yard, and the Sodder family took it to a military friend who kind of knew about this kind of stuff, and he believed it was an explosive device similar to a napalm bomb.
Fucking hell.
Which is I think that's quite powerful, isn't it, napalm? That's
napalm it's not just something that explodes, but it's like a blanket of fire, isn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of covers whatever it lands on.
Yeah, because all I know about napalm is the quote from Apocalypse Now, is it?
Oh, it smells great.
Yeah. I know. So yeah, I mean, I should point out it said similar to napalm, so it doesn't necessarily mean it was. So we can't say for sure. And also that's only just what I'm reading on this thing. It might not be true at all. Sylvia might not have found anything, but we just have to see.
You just have to, because at this point it's far too late to have an ongoing investigation, and you have to deal with what's been given to you at this point.
Also backing up these claims was a woman who claimed to have seen the children in a passing car when the fire was in progress. But that's only one person. I think if there was more, that would have backed up.
See, there's a lot of people that are actually witnessing things like this, but is this house situated in the middle of nowhere, or is it near a main road or something? Or
I get a sense there could be people close, but not right next door.
Yeah. And then again, that woman who passed, if she is a stranger to the family, the children she could have claimed to see were the ones that actually made it out. And to her, it's just children,
Yeah.
So you don't know.
Yeah. Another claim was that a woman believed she saw 4 of the 5 missing children at her hotel in Charleston, South Carolina. She said that they were with 2 men and 2 women at the time. She did claim she tried to speak to the children, but the adults were a bit hostile and just wouldn't allow it. She claims that these 2 men and 2 women were speaking to the children in Italian, and according to her, they checked in around about midnight. So that's not too long after it's all happened, or it's before, possibly, Yeah, this is before the fires happened.
Because it happened about 1:30.
Yeah, that's when they the Sodder family realised. I guess, and it's got to have started pretty soon, just before.
Then again, the kidnapping could have happened before the initial fire.
Yeah, that's one theory that I think they believe is quite strong.
Yeah,
So
because what was it? What's the woman's name? Martha, the mum.
Oh no,
the mum.
Jenny. Jenny's the mum.
Jenny, yeah. She noticed that before she went to bed, she noticed that the windows and the doors were unlocked, and that must have been at what, like 11 or something, or.
Yeah, she said this around about after midnight, I think.
And she got that call just after midnight.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's a bit of a stretch actually, because to get them to the hotel before then, you would have had to really done a sneaky kidnapping, a real ninja style kidnapping, especially to get at least 5 children, 2 of them being quite fully grown.
Yeah.
Out quietly. I mean,
Yeah, I think they did say. I forget how old the oldest one was. I think it was about like 12 or.
I think
15.
there were 2 quite well-grown boys.
Yeah, there was Morris.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I did read some of the names. I think there was a Martha as well. There was a Betty. I forgot some of them. I did see some of them, but yeah. So there was. I think they said there's 5 missing children altogether. I think.
Shit.
Wow, that's quite a lot. Yeah, but this woman, for some reason, she was just not considered very reliable.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know how you kind of decide that in a way. She could have been. I suppose it's problem. It's when it's just one person. If there's lots of people, it's kind of stronger to kind of make that claim. But
when it's one person, you might contradict things or something.
Yeah. Now, Jenny did try doing some her own research in burning things to see, because that's what their real kind of concern was. There's no bones found at all, and as we said earlier, you'd expect to find something. So she tried burning chicken bones in the stove, which it's not perhaps the most precisest of experiments, particularly in comparison to what happened to their house. But she can never completely kind of destroy them. Yeah. So that was kind of, in her mind, that would have furthered her belief that this wouldn't happen. And around about the same time, they learnt about the other home that burnt to the ground, and the 7 skeletons were found in the debris.
Do you think that could have been... No, it couldn't have been a red herring, because if the people that kidnapped the children set off another fire to put them off the trail, they wouldn't have been able to... The fact that the skeletons showed up would have just put more heat on them, so it couldn't have been them.
If this had been a setup, the guy who was found stealing the ladder and stuff like that, you try and like pin it on him if you were setting it up. Yeah,
that's true. Like, if he was just unfortunate to be a dick at the wrong time, not a murderer, but a dick, you know, trying to steal stuff. Yeah, then that's your scapegoat right there.
Yeah, I mean, even if you were even if you knew him, you'd try and just kind of set him up, basically. I think,
because he got caught, so that's his big whoopee, you know.
Yeah. My thing about him is maybe he was being like protected by someone
because he knows too much.
Yeah, and they paid off the police saying go easy on him, don't do the murder charge. Yeah. Or anything like that, and just fine him for stealing, basically.
Yeah, because they'll be making that money back easily with 5 kids, you know.
Yeah, I just thought it could have been so easy to just set him up because he's at the scene virtually around about the time, so he's got to have been close to the conspirators. It's got to be someone they weren't willing to see go down for it, so they weren't willing to set him up, but they wanted him to do this, so. Because I just thought if it was one big conspiracy, you could get him set up, and then your name's like nowhere near it, linked to it.
Yeah, it would just be perfect.
Yeah, because the problem with him being like not kind of found guilty of it is there's still suspicion, you know.
I'm even surprised because at the time the police were unscrupulous for just trying to cut corners and get a case solved, even if it wasn't solved, get that stamp solved on it. So like to not put it on this one guy, it's surprising the police didn't try that, you know.
Yeah, it does sound almost like it could be like a case of the police just not really wanting to deal with it and just trying to get it over as quick as possible.
then again, this isn't LA or the Midlands, so the police might not be as corrupt there.
Yeah.
You know?
So the Sodders, like with all this, like they had a few leads, obviously, that these like witnesses and stuff like that, and they thought, well, why not try and get the case reopened? But the police just thought no crime had taken place. They just thought it was one big kind of tragic accident, basically. 4 years later, the Sodder family ended up digging a lot of their former home, trying to find any remains that might have been overlooked. And again, as I said, some of these like bones were found and possible like human organs, but they all turned out to be, it says here, a relatively fresh beef liver. So it had nothing to do with human. Yeah, and they're like pieces of kind of vertebrae and small bones, possibly belonging to a child's hand, were found.
Oh my God.
However, a medical expert who was involved in the case said that it's very unlikely that all the other remains would be destroyed in such a quick burning fire. So he thought even in such a bad fire, you'd still expect to find some of the other remains. You wouldn't just find one person's kind of remains.
I mean, even the Hiroshima bomb left evidence of people.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's got to be something, at least. Like, you can't... Everything would turn to ash, I don't think. Like, it would... Even... I mean, where's the ash? You know, like, where would the ash be? I mean, like...
Yeah, I know it'd be difficult to find it in amongst all the other kind of ash bits of building, but it's still kind of... I mean, today you'd probably be able to differentiate between the ash in some way, scientifically, now. But I accept it's kind of possibly difficult, but you'd still expect to find something. Yeah, and this expert kind of he felt that the remains came from a 14 or a 15-year-old child, which is kind of exactly kind of like Morris's age. Right, yeah. But George didn't believe bones belonged to Morris because of the location they were found. That's not really explained very well in this.
It doesn't say whereabouts they were found.
No, and why he was sceptical about the location that this was found. So he didn't whether they had like separate places for the boys and the girls, maybe, and he's found where the girls might have gone to bed.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if funny business happened with anyone that came in, you don't know what kind of shit happened. Like, if he got made an example of or something. Or, then again, I'm saying all this kind of mafia style stuff, but it'd be hard for this shit again to happen in a house in the dead of night, really quietly. You know, like, it's just so many different things to consider.
Yeah. These bones were actually tested quite a few years later, and it was considered that the bones belonged to a person of 16 to 22 years of age, but also most crucially, the bones showed no signs of being damaged in a fire.
What?
So this is...
So they must have been planted?
Yes, this is what people believe, or they were there just long before the fire, possibly.
Fuck. And when were the bones found?
This was 1949. I think this would have been. Yeah, so that kind of just adds to I think the people who think this is sort of some cover up, basically.
How long did it take for the bones to be found after the initial burning?
I don't know, actually. Yeah, that's one thing I don't know. The only thing I'm slightly sceptical about this is if it was a cover up, wouldn't you expect to find 4 or 5? Kind of bits of like people down there.
Just because he's the biggest child doesn't mean he's got the more bone to go around, you know.
Yeah, I just think unless these you find like all these like some of these kind of crimes, and you think they're cover-ups, but you think they do a better job of it sometimes.
Well, that's the thing. Like all that red herring did. Yeah. It didn't calm anyone down. If anything, it made people more concerned about where they might be, because it did the opposite. Because, it's a very small piece of evidence to leave, which asks questions of actual physics. You know, like, why did this bone not break down? Even if you can't tell whether it was bone damage from fire, it would still be, why did this bone survive and the others not? Yeah. Why was it left here in this particular area where the boys would never go? It just adds to the flame, ironically, you know, so...
Yeah. Right, now we're going to come to 6 years after the tragedy. The Sodders make one last attempt to find any new leads, and so they put up a massive billboard on the side of their house.
Yeah.
And it had pictures of 5 of their missing children.
Yeah.
And it had the whole story. You can see it on the internet. It looks like it just looked like kind of a graffiti thing on a kind of wall. I actually seen it. There's one in Southwold. And it's got because George Orwell used to stay there, and it's got kind of loads of George Orwell quotes on there and stuff like that. It looks a bit like that. Now. If you can see it,
what was it? A $5,000 reward.
10,000 eventually.
10,000.
They put it up to it was 5,000 at the beginning.
It's sad, really. Yeah. Actually.
Yeah, and it comes to now to 1960. Actually, I'll go to 1967 first, because George Sodder he kind of just did his own investigations, really, or he got other people involved as well.
Yeah.
He started to kind of travel into different areas of America, because the theory was that the kind of kids had been kidnapped and they were possibly still in America. There was one theory that they'd gone over to Italy and that they were possibly being looked after there for some reason. And so he kind of he went to a convent, and I think he went to see a woman in St. Louis who claimed Martha was being held in a convent there.
Yeah.
Which I've heard a lot kind of dads used to send their daughters to convents sometimes, particularly the strong Catholics in those days. So I'm not saying he put it there, but the American Italians, they were quite often Catholics, or I think they were all pretty much Catholics. So I can see that being the kind of thing they'd possibly do. So he was. I don't think he was satisfied that she was there. I think he then went to Houston, where he investigated another tip, and this is one of their sons, Louis Sodder, and he had apparently revealed his identity to this woman there when after he'd had too much to drink. And she said she believed that he and Morris were living in Texas somewhere.
Fuck.
Sodder and his son-in-law went to go speak with her, but they couldn't. Police were, however, were able to help them find the 2 men that she'd indicated, but they denied being the missing sons. But the son-in-law says that he had doubts about their denials for the rest of his life. He never quite believed that they were telling the truth there. But this is probably the most credible evidence coming out now. About a year later or so, they got a letter with a photo from someone who claimed to be Louis, and it was postmarked Central City, Kentucky, but it had no return address. And this was a photo of a 30-year-old. They think, man round in about his 30s, which is the same age Louis would have been at the time. Yeah. And it just said, Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, little boys, or something, A90132 or 35. Now, no one really knows what this means, that number at the end, or who Frankie is, after all, because there's no one in the family, I think, called Frankie. And the number, some people have possibly said it's some address or something, but no one's been able to find an address with those kind of numbers, so that's a mystery to everyone. But the family seemed pretty convinced this photograph was him. I'm not sure if you can see it at all, if you've seen the photo.
I don't know if you put Louis Sodder in the internet, you'll find it. Just put it in now. I was just looking at those posters again.
Yeah, George Sodder, unfortunately, he died in 1969 without finding out what happened in any way. So that's kind of sad, I think, in a way.
That is sad,
to go that long.
He sound like to not give up and to try all this long time. You think to yourself, I wish they'd had a happy ending. I wish he'd be able to reunite with at least one of them, or if they are still alive. And I hope they had a good upbringing somehow.
Yeah.
If they were.
Yeah. He looks like it aged him quite badly as well, because I saw a photo of him around about 67 time. Yeah. He looks like really old.
Well, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Shows it was a guy who actually cared.
Yeah, that's kind of all the researching that they did, and they've never found out any more really about that. And so it comes about, why did this happen? And the biggest theory is that it was somehow mafia related. It was some kind of mob kind of job, I guess.
Yeah, because there's a whole honor system of, well, if you wronged us in some part of our life, or if your family did something, we'll extend to your other family, or we'll take someone of your kids or something.
Yeah, people kind of believe this because he was like he had a coal trucking business,
right?
So he would have been involved in that industry, and the mafia was connected to that industry. It's under a lot of pressure from the mafia at the time, but also he was a critic of Benito Mussolini as well.
Shit. So
that may have offended some of the mafia. Although I just think 1945 though, it was a good couple of years after Mussolini. Well, he'd been overthrown by then, hadn't he? I think he wasn't quite. I don't think he was dead by kind of December of 45 as well. So. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm too convinced by that one. I think it's probably got more to do with the whole coal trucking business.
Maybe.
So yeah, that's the main theory. The other idea is that they just all died in the fire. The two Sodder parents who just couldn't accept that their kids had died, which I just feel you'd expect to find something.
At least, just the tiniest thing.
Yeah. I just think there's so many coincidences that, coincidences do happen, but I just feel all that bad luck in one night, that's usually, I think, probably wished upon you.
It's too coincidental.
Yeah. I don't think that's just wishful thinking that they're still alive. Well, they're probably not still alive now, but I think they probably survived that.
Unless you had hard evidence, then sure, you can start thinking otherwise, but...
Yeah.
And part of you starts to think, it's also hope. You hope that the lack of evidence is like a sign that there's someone, they're still out there.
Yeah. I should say one quick thing about Louis, though. I was watching some video on YouTube where this guy got one of those, face recognition apps, and he put there's a photo of Louis when he was younger, around the time of the disappearance, and the photo that was sent to them, claiming to be Louis. And it did get 84% face recognition on this thing.
84. Then again, it's one of those apps, isn't it?
You can't necessarily trust, but I just thought that was interesting to add that in. So
it is true, though.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, personally, I think they survived somehow. I don't have a clue what happened to them afterwards.
Yeah. It just seems too unrealistic that they would have perished in a all too powerful fire that was very selective about what it burnt.
Yeah.
But I hope they did, and I believe they did as well. And I just hope that they at least had a decent life wherever they went.
Also, if the mafia had kidnapped you, you wouldn't be too. I don't think you'd be rushing to kind of necessarily talk to your family if you knew that would hurt them.
Yeah,
as well.
Exactly.
And I think the mafia would be pretty keen you didn't talk to them as well. So.
That's true.
Yeah,
so it helps everyone,
Yeah.
As much as it hurts not talking to them again.
Yeah, and also if they were kept for a long time, if it was a big grudge, I can see them keeping them for a long time. Because I did hear of theory it's some extortion thing, but I was thinking once the sort of fact if they paid up, you'd return the children. You wouldn't. I don't see them keeping them for years on end.
If anything, they probably would have gotten rid of them by taking them to a convent or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's the nicer thought, anyway. I mean.
Yeah. So, but we'll probably never find out what happened to them. Unfortunately,
probably.
I think it's just been too long. So, yeah. But it's a bit sad in some ways. But you got that hope that they still survived somewhere.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a dark note to end on, but at the same time, at least it shows how much we should be thankful for living in this century, in this decade, rather. This century, actually. Whereas if there was a kidnapping, or at least some foul play, we'd know about it on the same day.
Yeah. To be fair, if there's a kidnapping now, there'd be a whole the media rush would be massive. Particularly like 4 or 5 children.
Unless there was some questionable stuff like, you know, with the whole Madeleine McCann thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah. But there's plenty of children in the world. I mean, Tarnum's got her children's party.
As long as she's looking after them now, they're going to be fine, you know. I think the big question is who's going to be the next Tarnum?
Yeah.
You know, to protect our future.
Oh, God, the next Tarnum. I think we should wrap that up now. It's gone on a bit longer than I thought it would.
No, but at the same time, it's we've learnt to keep our doors locked. I think.
Yeah, that's what we do now.
Keep an eye on your electrical equipment.
Yeah. Don't get dodgy.
Let the gas meter in, but you know, make sure he's got an ID card.
Oh yeah, should always do that.
Did that today actually.
Did you? You actually checked properly that.
Oh, I checked. I had a good look at his ID. Closed the doors as he went through. You know, you can't have a look at my DVD collection. Sorry, mate. And having a little look at, what will I need now?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing I'm most worried about. People seeing.
Get a good look at the layout of the house, you know.
It's not like the TV or stuff like that. It's the DVDs that I'm worried about.
I'll keep that shit tight, you know. You can take my plasma, mate, but don't you go looking after my Poundland DVDs.
Yeah, they can take the dogs, but the DVDs, no.
Oh, well, I think we'll wrap it up here, mate.
Yeah, it's time to go.
And I hope to see you next time, listeners. Hopefully Tama might be back. If she's not, you'll have a nice extra round of me and Matt unhinged once again.
Oh, yeah, unhinged, yeah. Wow.
What should we call this? Should we call it our dirty dozens, our dirty steamers?
Oh, dirty steamer, I like that one.
Dirty steamers? Yeah, why not? Because we could be train conductors, but we could also be really nasty bedroom dwellers as well.
Yeah.
With that name. Yeah, I like
it. Oh, we should probably mention you can social media us and stuff like that.
Oh, yes. Drop us an email, slap on a nice message on the Twitter, Dorks Deduction. Go onto our Facebook. We love you on there. And send me an early Valentine's card if you like.
Oh, yeah, that is early, actually.
That is early, yeah. Or a late one.
Yeah, late one, yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah, but they come piling in here, so you don't need
they do, yeah. But we'll make it stand out. Put on a bit of glitter, you know. We'll read it out on the actual podcast.
Please use glue to stick it on, not your homemade glue to stick it on.
Yes, that's a must.
Yes.
I hope you guys have a nice day.
Yes, au revoir.
So doff your hat, I pray. Get lost, get lost, get lost, get lost, get lost among the newborn hay. So doff, so doff, so doff, so doff, so doff.